Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. I'm Crumbs and today we'll be talking about our predictions for the 15 most broken champs on patch 12.11. One of the most important things in a constantly evolving game like League is to be able to adapt with the meta, and that's what we're here for you. If you know what's gonna be OP before the patch hits, you'll be ready to hit the ground running without having to test to see if that one buff or nerf really made that much of a difference. And if you don't know how to play any of these OP picks or you're just a bit rusty, this will give you a few days to brush up on them in some normals or on a smurf. Before we get started, I just want to say this list is not in any particular order. It's just a list of the champs that we predict will be some of the strongest, most influential picks on this patch. Also, since Riot hasn't released the in-depth 12.11 change list at the time we made this particular list is based on the 12.10 hotfixes, as well as the PBE changes we've seen so far. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get started. We'll start things off with Darius. He's always been a champ that does incredibly well in extended fights. The more drawn out things are, the better chance you have of reaching 5 stacks. Whether it's a 1v1 or a 5v5, once you fully stack that passive, it's pretty much over for whoever is in your way. He's been on the up and up for the past few patches, but obviously the durability patch did a lot to push him up even harder. Now, you're much less likely to be killed before you can ramp up and pop off. I'd say he's probably tied with Fiora for the spot of best top laner in the game right now, but you don't need to put in nearly as much effort to get the same results. So, if you want to abuse a top laner that's ridiculously OP and takes next to no mechanics, you may want to pick him up. The last time Darius was super strong, he stayed that way for almost 2 full years, so he'll probably be good for quite a while. Whether you're trying to learn to abuse the broken champs on this list or how to deal with them when you end up on the wrong side of the matchup, if you really want to speed up the process, you should check out ProGuides.com. We have courses from all your favorite streamers and pros like CoreJJ, Aframu, and Xmithy to help you really understand how to play your role. And if you want a more personalized experience, we have coaches available 24/7, ready to help you become the best. Our coaches are top tier players that have spent years climbing the solo queue ladder to get to where they are now, and they're ready to share everything they've learned with you. Now let's get back on topic, shall we? The second champ we have for today is Senna. Senna has been our pick for #1 support in the game for several patches, and the durability patch made her even better. Riot responded with an almost immediate hotfix nerf, but as is often the case, it was just a slap on the wrist. She's still outperforming every other pick in the role, with her pretty much being able to solo carry fights. Once you reach 100 plus stacks, of course, as long as you have a decent team comp. The next pick we have is Singed. He's one of the most heavily slept on picks at the moment. We featured him in our meta video several times in recent patches, but he continues to be a super low pick rate champion despite having one of the highest win rates. And it's not just top lane Singed that does well, mid lane Singed has somehow consistently been a few % higher in win rate than his more standard role as a top laner. The main reason Singed works well in the mid lane is that you get to utilize his fast pushing power along with Predator to go for roams in both side lanes and terrorize your opponents. Kogmaw is another extremely slept on champ that you should be abusing. We gave everyone forewarning before 12.10 hit that any champ that scales is automatically going to be better, since we knew games would be less snowbally, and no, that does not mean Renate because he's a crocodile. But since Kogmaw was already doing pretty well, it's no surprise that he's now the highest win rate marksman in the game. You're able to survive lane a lot more consistently and reach that massive 2 item spike where Kog has the damage to mow down the entire enemy team. Since you basically have all the damage you need at that point, you're able to itemize super defensively after that. So not only is he a Gatling gun that can melt everything in sight, but he's also just as durable as the average bruiser. Alright, you saw this one coming. Fiora's percentage-based true damage has made it so that you don't feel any damage loss from the durability change. As a result, she was pushed up from really good to absolutely god tier with 12.10. As we said earlier, the only real competition she has for the rank 1 spot in top lane is Darius. While he's easier to play, you can definitely make the argument that a Fiora with super good mechanics is straight up better, since you can outplay a huge variety of situations. That said, our meta lists are generally aimed at a mid-level elo range of around gold to plat, not challenger, so we can't expect absolutely perfect play every time. Next up, we have Miss Renate Glask. She may not put out the raw damage like Senna, but she's still incredibly impactful just in her own way. She's quite a bit more lane dominant, with her passive adding a lot of damage in extended fights, and technically she's listed as an enchanter, but her grab bag of utility makes her feel like anything but the other healers and shielders in the game. Wukong makes this list again, since he continues to be a super strong pick in not one, not two, but all three topside roles. He's good at dueling at all stages of the game, able to take on most AD champs in 1v1 fights, and usually, champs that excel at dueling want to stay away from 5v5s. But with Wu, it's anything but the case. His ult, bringing both CC and a ton of damage to teamfights, make him a huge force to reckon with. If you prefer to enable allies over being the carry yourself, maybe Zilean is more your speed. I can't really remember a time where Zilean wasn't a high win rate champ, but after the durability changes, he only got stronger. His one weakness is that he's kinda weak early on. He can clear waves and set up ganks, but aside from that, you sorta wanna stay away from fighting with even numbers in a lot of cases. But since the durability patch made scaling up a better strategy, it's okay to surrender some early game pressure and focus on getting to the point that you can just facilitate your team winning the game. If that sounds like your thing, definitely give him a go as either a mid laner or a support. Typically, an early game champ is one that falls off at later stages of the game, and with the game being less snowbally now than it's been for the past few years, champions that fall into that category are obviously gonna be a lot weaker. But Jhin is an AD carry that has a really strong laning phase without having that drawback at all. He scales excellently with ridiculous damage once you get to the full build, plus he even comes with a bit of utility, something that has a lot more value now that damage is overall lessened across the board. Now let's talk about Swain. With his mid-scope update back on 12.8, Riot made Swain a super strong champ. The results didn't show right away though, but after people caught on, he quickly became an overwhelmingly strong pick in all three carry roles. Even Swain's support is pretty strong, but it's kind of a waste to play him there rather than the other three, since his win rate is a few % higher in those roles. I mean, obviously a champ that is focused on hard carrying 5v5s is gonna do a lot more when you give them farm. The durability patch only made him more broken, since Swain's ult lasts indefinitely now as long as you're able to drain your foes. Your opponents have to burst you down through all that healing, but that's a lot easier said than done now. If you end up giving him a go, my one word of advice to you is buy a Rabadon's. It's not just about dealing damage, his ult's healing has a pretty big AP ratio, so picking up Deathcap as your 5th or 6th item gives a massive spike to your effective tankiness too. While she probably isn't nearly as fun to play as our previous supports to most people, Janna is doing super well right now. In fact, in terms of win rate, she's actually better than the others by about 1 or 2%, depending on the elo you're looking at. Yes, she may not be flashy, and people may trash talk you for playing the so-called easiest champ in the game, but hey, there's no shame in playing whatever it takes to farm some LP in my eyes. I gotta say, making this list has been one of the more difficult meta videos in quite some time. While the game is overall a lot more balanced now, since you don't just get one shot left and right nearly as much anymore, that in and of itself has made a lot more champions broken. It feels really hard to limit the most broken picks to just 15 champs. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What broken champ do you think deserves a spot on this list? After you finish the video, let us know who you think we wrongfully left out down in the comments below. Now, without further ado, let's get back on topic, shall we? When Riot buffed Veigar way back on 12.2, he very quickly became one of the most powerful champs in the game in both the mid and bot lanes, with the latter being especially OP. Even after the follow-up nerf on 12.4, he remained super dominant. But several patches later, he had just started to fall off just a tiny bit. He was still super good bot lane, but in the mid lane, he was losing a bit of favor. And then, the durability patch happened, and just like that, he's right back to being a super favored contender for the title of the best champ in both roles. Turns out, a champ that scales infinitely is pretty broken in a farm-heavy meta. Kayle was arguably the single most broken champ post durability changes, so obviously she was one of the champs hit with the follow-up hotfixes. But when a champ is just ridiculously overtuned, it's gonna take a lot more than one tiny nerf to get them all the way down from the top. She's still super strong with next to no hard counter, and even if you beat her early, she's able to outscale virtually any other champ. Another very hard to deal with pick at the moment is Olaf. We knew his mid-scope update was giving him a super strong kit, but what surprised us is that the role he ended up being OP in is top lane. In fact, he's still pretty bad in the jungle, but when you get a lead in the top lane, he quickly becomes a very hard to deal with split pusher. Snowballing may overall be a lot weaker now, but you won't be feeling that way when you're 1v3ing and coming out of it alive with 900 more gold in your pocket with just 2 items. Finally, finishing off our list, we have Mordekaiser. Like most other juggernauts, he went from pretty good to really strong with the durability changes. Drawn out fights that what champs in that class are all about, so he's absolutely thriving right now. He does super well in all 3 topside roles, so no matter which one you play, he's someone you should really consider picking. I'd even consider giving him a try as a bot lane carry if you pair him with fasting Senna. And that wraps things up for our predictions for the 15 most broken champs on patch 12.11. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to sub so you never miss out on any of our content like this. And remember to let us know which champ you think is OP that we missed on our list. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can discuss League further or just hang out and be a part of our community. I can't wait to see you guys back for the next video, but until then, good luck on the Rift, and may the LP gods smile down upon you.